Welcome back into Offsides. Welcome back into Offsides. I am Brandon Como. Thank you so much for listening this afternoon. President Trump said earlier this week that U.S. immigration officials will start raids after July 4th as part of a nationwide roundup of undocumented immigrants. Now, the president announced the timeline for the plan to reporters gathered in the Oval Office. He had postponed the action about 2 weeks ago to see if lawmakers from both parties could work out a solution to U.S. asylum policies. Now, joining us on the phone lines right now is an immigration attorney. Pallavi Ahluwalia joins us right now. Did I get your name correctly this time?
It is perfect. Thank you, Brandon. Yes.
All
This
right.
is Pallavi Ahluwalia. Glad to be talking to you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. And, we speak about immigration issues a lot here on this show. And usually my broadcast partner, Shannon Wilkerson, who's out for today, when he's on, we spend a lot of time talking about some of the immigration issues. And so I'm really excited to have you on as an immigration attorney because you can speak to a lot of what we talk about. Now, before we get into our topics of discussion, can you explain to our listeners just what it is that you do in working with immigrants?
So I represent a lot of high-skilled individuals, professionals, doctors, engineers, who are here trying to seek a legal path into being residents. There are a lot of them that are not residents that come here on temporary work visas. We also represent some students that are here that go through the STEM programs, and we have a fair share of the practice that represents families, and this is families who are U.S. citizens who fall in love, get married to people from different countries. Some of them have come into the country legally and are applying to stay back into the country. And there's some that have fallen out of status or could be deported or are deportable or enter the country without papers and they are still spouses or parents of U.S. citizens who are trying to stay back in the U.S. and seek paths to residency and then eventually citizenship through a legal channel.
So, talking about what we were mentioning at the very top of our discussion here, what President Trump had said about the raids that are going to start happening now. Before the delay, the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents had been poised to start attempting to round up about 2,000 people in 10 cities, including Miami, Los Angeles, Chicago, and Baltimore. And he said the raids obviously were to start in the coming weeks. What is the latest here?
So all we know right now is that announcement, and then we understand that there's some list that ICE has, that is Immigration Custom Enforcement, and these are a list of individuals. Earlier or prior priorities have been, and it's called a concept called prosecutorial discretion, that when you arrest or get people into deportation, you go start with the people that are criminals or who have been deported before but never left the country or things like that, on those grounds. And then the lower priority to get deported are people who have ties to the U.S., like they have a U.S. citizen spouse or they're, parents of U.S. citizens, or they're born here and they've kind of been in this society for a while. So there is an order to that. But what happens when, and that should be the priority, where you want to get rid of all criminals, anybody that has violated laws, not just immigration, but, the other laws. Mm-hmm. And they are the ones that should be sent out, if at all, if that's the process for deportation that's being followed. Now, what's happening when you do an ICE raid, you're going to get in the dragnet, you're going to get a lot of other people, and they may have just lost status just for a short time. I have a story of a parent who came in from India, and she's came to visit. She's been visiting and goes back, comes every few years, stays here for 6 months, and then goes back. And she was visiting, and she fell sick. Okay, and she fell sick, and she had well-to-do kids, so they kind of got her the medical help insurance and got her, covered with, so they paid for it. Mm-hmm. And somehow in that time her visa status expired, and these kids, or I'm talking about these are adults, obviously, as an older woman, they tried to file some paperwork without the help of the attorney or a bad attorney. I don't know what happened, but that attorney could not extend her visa, and she fell out of status. Now she's landed into deportation proceedings. She has to be literally she's got something, a tube in her neck. She can't talk, and now for her to be able to show up to immigration hearings and go through the deportation when she has a U.S. citizen daughter who is able to sponsor her. So some of the things that, when you're putting people into deportation proceedings, there's some things that have to be looked at more in a common sense manner. So now she's going to block the resources of the country, of the courts, and eventually she's going to be let off because she does have, there's no intent to violate the law. This happened, while she got sick, and she has somebody who can help her get out of it. So, and which is her daughter, who's filed some paperwork through us right now, and that's the petition for her mom. And then later on, she's going to be able to get the deportation taken off, and that she has another attorney for.
This really is a passion of yours, getting to advocate for people who really don't feel like they can adequately advocate for themselves as they are trying to make a life here in the United States, correct?
Correct. So we represent individuals, and they quest to be in the U.S., a better place, a beacon of light to a lot of people, even the smart and the talented that come into the country. They're obviously coming from dysfunctional countries that are not being able to get them what they probably deserve and what they can produce. And U.S. has welcomed them into their fold, but they have visa problems and they have to stay on. So we have a lot of nationals from different countries, from China, from India, who have come in here as students, have been educated and learned from the best professors and have gone to the best companies around here. The name is the big brand names, but they still are struggling to get residency into the country because the immigration system, unfortunately, is broken. It does not, though it recognizes that there is an employment-based immigration category, the numbers that are awarded to people that are from the employment-based side are too less. They're 114,000 per year, and there's a long queue there. So Indian nationals who want to get just a green card, which is the resident status, would not be able to get it if they have a master's degree for the next maybe 15 years. So some of them who are in their 40s will probably be retiring from their jobs and they will still not be green card holders. So it's a broken system right now that does need a fix all over.
And those words right there, it's a broken system. That's exactly why I wanted to bring you on as someone who knows really the ins and outs of what happens in our immigration system. One thing that I wanted to ask you was, and I know that this is a question that could probably take an hour to answer, but what are some of the biggest ways that you believe this immigration system and the brokenness that you talked about can be fixed?
So I think we need consensus from both sides. It's really not about saying that so let's just do a border wall and not worry about the rest of the things that we have to do, or let's just DACA kids in, which are the deferred adjudication children that have come in here younger and now are adults. Mm-hmm. So it has to be something that covers everyone and every concern. And we're talking about, of course, whenever there's legislation and there's partisanship and there's other issues, but I don't think anybody is really trying to fix it, because if they were to be able to fix it, then how would they be able to have something that kind of polarizes people, right? So I think at this time there is a sitting down and the meeting of everyone, and to be able to say, okay, we've got to cover, the high-skilled people. We've got to cover and give some leniency to, say, for example, American citizens who fall in love with foreign nationals, and they should be allowed to get people in, or parents, or they should be able to. They're here now in the country, and they want to bring their kids over. They are maybe adult kids, or these are the numbers that we're taking refugee people in, or there is a better system that we will once in a while get this surge of migrants from different countries, and they have to be a better way to fix it. And then we even start by going to the host countries from where a lot of the migrants have been coming into our borders, and see if U.S. as a stronger, more economically advanced country, and obviously in a better position here, can give the message there, public service messages that says, listen, you guys are not welcome here because you're not going to get treated right, number one. And number two, here's money and stay here, right? So something has to be done with those triangular countries that are coming in from Central America. The border should be secure, can't be an open border completely. And we have to take care of the people that are already in the country and are contributing. Have them, if they violated the law, they need to pay a penalty maybe, but then they should be given a second chance if they are not criminals. So this would be my ideal way to reform this, but of course there is a lot that needs to be done to get there.
Yeah, and unfortunately, when you look at both sides of the political aisle, you see a lot of fussing back and forth, and you don't see consensus. And every time I see, well, what's Congress going to do to act on immigration reform, I'm not really that hopeful because we're such a divided country right now. And especially on this issue, I feel like both sides are so completely far apart. I don't know that we're going to really have comprehensive immigration reform for quite a while.
Correct. I think we've discussed it several times, but I don't think it's on anyone. I'm watching everyone, and I'd like for people to say that that's what they want to do. Everybody has proposals that are all over the place, but they don't deal with the entire. Immigration is complex. Mm-hmm. We're talking about different ways that people get into it. And for us to slam the door on anyone is not us as much. But there has to be some understanding as to who's welcome and how we lay out the welcome mat. And there have to be some rules around everything. And I think that's fine to place them.
Thank you so much for your time. Pallavi Ahluwalia has been our guest. She's an immigration attorney, and I appreciate your time. As a matter of fact, you are overseas right now, and I know you went through great lengths to make some time to speak with us here today. So thank you so much for doing that. We really do appreciate that, and I just appreciate you taking the time to give us your perspective and share with us your expertise on this issue.
Thank you so much, Brandon, for having me, and it's a pleasure to speak to you. As you can see, I'm passionate about my topic. That's what I practice in, and that's what I talk about all the time. So happy to. Thank you.
Thank you.